for you. But moving on, Matt, what you got for us for the Arizona Cardinals this year?
The Arizona Cardinals, last season, they were better than I remembered, to be honest. They were 8 and
Mm.
9, third in the division. They missed the playoffs, of course, but these were the offensive statistics that I was stunned by. Their offensive EPA per play was .067, which is top 10 in the NFL, behind teams like, you know, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Cincinnati was the only other missed playoff team that was in the top 10. So that shows the trajectory that their offense is clearly on. Um, and then their pass block win rate was 60% at exactly 16th, so kind of middle of the pack. And then their run block win rate was 72% at 11th. Their defensive EPA per play was pretty bad, .050. Usually you want that number to be in the negatives because then you're allowing negative points pretty much per play. That was tied for 23rd with the Rams and the Titans. So not really the place you want to be defensively. And then their pass rush win rate was 33%, 28th in the league, and then run stop win rate was 30%, and that was 20th in the league. But overall, Kyler Murray had a pretty successful year uh, with efficiency metrics. .150 EPA per play, which was 13th in the league. 51.3 success rate, which is 8th in the league, higher than Mahomes and Darnold, who we have mentioned before. And then you get to their offseason, a a banger offseason for them, truly. They extend Trey McBride at a monster deal that at the time was the biggest tight end contract in the league, 4 years for 76 million dollars, and then Kittle kind of topped it by like 400K. Uh, they re-signed Baron Browning, who they traded for at the deadline. They re-signed Evan Brown, who was their center last season. They re-signed Kelvin Beachum, who played a lot for them because I think Jonah Williams was down for a little bit, so he played a lot of swing tackle. They bring him back for kind of a veteran minimum. LJ Collier, the same thing at the edge rusher position. And then Greg Dortch, a restricted free agent, they brought back for a $3 million contract. He becomes unrestricted next year. And then you get into their additions. This was where they really swung hard for the fences. Josh Sweat, edge rusher, 4 years, $76 million. Take him from the Eagles. Gannon knows him. Dalvin Tomlinson, interior lineman, defensive lineman, 2 years, $29 million. Jacoby Brissett, 2 years, $12 million. He's kind of a backup, you know, in case of emergency quarterback. Akeem Davis Gaither, 2 years, $10 million, off ball linebacker, and then Calais Campbell, going to finish his career with the Arizona Cardinals. We know he was a longtime Cardinal before. And then their draft. Their draft was pretty, like, this was a draft I highlighted after our, draft show, like our draft recap show. Walter Nolan in the first round at pick 16, one of my favorite players, top 10 player for me. Will Johnson, the same thing. Will Johnson was a top 15 player for me. They got him in round two because of a knee injury. If that ends up working out for you, you just got an outside corner who has star potential for free in the second round. And then Jordan Birch, any one of those, like, front seven Oregon players I loved. Jordan Birch was no different. And then they only lost really two major departures. Kazir White, who was an off-ball linebacker, and Roy Lopez, who's an interior lineman, defensive lineman. And then Kazir White, it was fun looking this up because they're kind of swapping him out for Akeem Davis Gaither coming over from Cincinnati. Kazir White, of guys with over, like, linebackers with over 200 coverage snaps, he was the lowest graded player in PFS database in 2024. So it can't get any worse, is what they're kind of saying at the linebacker coverage position. And then that brings me to my season outlook question with them. Ironically, it's not defensive because I think their defense, just by sheer amount of what they have spent, it is going to be better. They have spent, three premium draft picks. They spent major money in three major defensive lineman additions. They're going to be better, and that's not what my question. My question is another year of offseason development. Will that let this offense take another leap? Like, they were surprisingly top 10 last year, and they have all this in-house development to still, rely on. Marvin Harrison walking into last year was kind of a he was kind of crowned as a top 10 receiver just in waiting. If he could break out in year 1, he'd be a top 10 receiver. And at best, he was the fourth best rookie behind Neighbors, Thomas Jr., and McConkey. And then Kyler Murray had another instance of what like fading after the bye week. They were 6-4 prior to the bye week. They were in EPA per play on offense. They were top 10, and drop back EPA per play, which is all dependent on the quarterback, was sixth. After the bye week, when they finished 2-5 and missed the playoffs at 8-9, they were 15th in EPA per play, and Kyler was specifically 17th in dropback EPA per play. So dropping nearly, 7, 8, 9 spots in offensive EPA per play, a very common efficiency metric at the back half of the season, it's the story of Kyler Murray. So that is what makes this interesting for me. If this offense can continue to take another leap forward and play for 18 weeks, they have so much talent. Like, I just want to list off some of the top 100 picks just in the last 3 years they have taken. Paris Johnson, their left tackle. Michael Wilson. Trey Benson. Tip Ryman. Isaiah Adams. All of these guys drafted specifically on the offensive side of the ball, drafted in the last 3 years. So, yeah, I think there's a world where this team takes another leap, and it's because of Kyler Murray, and it's because of the continuity, and it's because of the talent they've invested on that side of the ball.
Ben,
Oh,
anything?
that's that is a fun way to look at it, but I mean, you do hope that that defense does take a step forward. I mean, you hire a guy like Gannon to hopefully figure out that defense, and I mean, he was at least able to get a good year out of Zaven Collins for the first time, switching him over from linebacker to edge, which I guess props to you. But they were able to get a guy like Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
But on the offensive side of the ball, there, the thing that concerns me is weapons outside, like pass catching weapons. I mean, I like Michael Wilson, but Michael Wilson doesn't have a whole lot to show, given he's only going into his third year at this point. But he had 548 yards last year. And then Greg Dortch, which seems to be everyone's fantasy darling as of recently, your wide receiver 3, like you're really trusting that, again, as you said, that those guys, maybe, again, Greg Dortch, you get a step up from like Hoko of all people takes that step forward or something. It'll just be interesting. Again, you're banking on that offensive development, because I think if you can do that, you can hopefully get above that, ranked 10th EPA. But for them to be ranked 10 for EPA, I'm wondering how much of it is the actual talent versus it just being an outside, just like an outlier. Because again, the weapons aren't there. So you just hope Marv can kind of ascend into that wide receiver 1, and Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson can take that step forward. But at least you are building a good offensive line, or at least trying to build an offensive line. And, again, hopefully, Walter Nolan and Josh Sweat can make that impact on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into their schedule. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the top row. I think that would probably be easier to do it instead of individually. I think it flows better. So for me, I have them beating the Saints, beating the Panthers, losing to the 49ers, beating the Seahawks, beating the Titans, beating the Colts. Okay, starting off 5-1 on that top slate in the first 6 weeks. Matt, what do you have?
I have them just a little bit behind at 4-2. I have them winning their first 2 games, Saints and Cardinals, losing to San Francisco, beating Seattle, losing to Tennessee, and then winning against Indianapolis. I think those are kind of like a, you win one, lose one kind of situation at the end.
Ben?
That's funny, because we actually have it to a T, the exact same 4-2. W's against the Saints and Panthers, lost to the Niners, pick up the W against the Seahawks. You lose to the Titans, and then you win against the Colts. So we actually see that first 5 weeks or 6 weeks exactly.
Okay. Next row, I have them beating the Packers, and then beating the Cowboys, losing to the Seahawks, losing to the 49ers, beating the Jaguars. Let's see, beating the Bucks, losing to the Rams, beating
Slow
the
down.
Texans. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, holy cow. I'm sorry.
Jags.
Zoned
Slow.
out
Stop
there.
at the Jags. Stop at Jags.
Stop at
Gee
Jags. Yeah, yeah,
whiz.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So my bad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have them beating Green Bay, which takes them to 5-2 at the bye week. I have them losing back to back right after the bye. I have them losing to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, and then losing to Seattle, but winning those next two, beating San Francisco and beating Jacksonville.
Ben.
There you go. I have them losing to the Packers and Cowboys, but then I have them beating the Seahawks, losing to the Niners, and beating the Jags.
All right, I'm gonna start the bottom row over. That's my bad. All right, so I think I had them beating Tampa. Hold on, wait a minute. I'm trying to think. What do 3, 4, 5, 6.
You confused him.
7, 8. Okay, so beating Tampa, losing to the Rams, beating Houston, losing to the Falcons, beating Cincinnati, beating the Rams, and now you're at 12-5 for the Cardinals.
I have them losing to Tampa Bay on the road. I have them beating the Rams. They're kind of gonna back and forth. They'll beat the Rams. They'll lose to Houston. They'll beat Atlanta. They'll lose to Cincinnati. Kind of just playing the road away or the road home kind of splits. Like I just like picking the home teams, and then that brings you to a clash. They're 9-7. We haven't done the Rams yet. So I don't know what the Rams are going to be, but this could be a game where they're both 9-7, fighting for a playoff spot. I'm gonna have them losing to the Rams, so I'm gonna have them finishing 9-8, just on the cusp. I like. I'm not as high as Ryan is on this team at 12 wins, but still, yeah, finish it off.
12 wins. Whew. Yeah. I have them pretty much almost the exact same as you. I have them beating the Buccaneers, losing to the Rams, beating both the Texans and Falcons, and then losing those final two games against the Bengals and Rams. And that puts them at a 9-8 season for me as well, which will be, again, interesting because, if you're a Cardinals fan, do you want another 9-8 season? Probably not. But it's kind of the outlook. How does the season go? And it's kind of all story based and narrative based, and you'll see where the season takes you. But another 9-8 finish might get you souring a little bit on this team. But Ryan, not to make it about this team, but I noticed you had both teams losing or beating the Texans. You going to be lower on the Texans than the consensus?
I absolutely am. I mean, spoiler alert. I hate the way that they're treating the offensive line. I'm not a fan of that at all. And so because of that, I've seen how that affects quarterback play. I think CJ kind of takes a step back. I'm not a fan of their wide receiver room. I know Tank Dell's going to be injured as well. So like out for the season more than likely. And overall, I mean, I just think that this team takes a step back altogether. So yeah, not quite a fan of the Texans this year, but I'm not saying that they're just going to lose every single game because like recently my predictions have been kind of biased against them. But like when we get to the Texans, you'll see like
Yeah.
it's not quite as bad as I'm probably making it seem. So